Hi everyone, it's me, Dr. Whimsy, and today I'm talking about a subject that I've been thinking about doing for the last couple of days. It's somewhat controversial, and uh, I think it's a necessary conversation to have. And the subject is how to stay healthy in a toxic world. And there are certainly things that we as healthcare providers, naturopathic doctors think about when we're trying to help people stay healthy in a toxic world. Um, I have talked a little bit in the past about something called an environmental um, exposure assessment. Those are That's something that we do here in the office where we take a look. I'll see if I can open one up here. Ah, very nice. We take a look at what possible environmental pollutants a person might be having in their daily life, being exposed to, with an understanding that the body has to deal with these toxic exposures and can become burdened. When the toxic exposure is so great that the body cannot handle the burden, that is when we see the risk for disease. So, this is an environmental exposure risk assessment, and we talk about things that a person might most likely be exposed to in the homes. That means looking at what they're bathing in, what they're drinking, what they're consuming, how they're cleaning their floors, if there's dust or mold in the home that they might be having a reaction to, switching from synthetic chemicals, whether it's a perfume or a hair dye. I just had a patient recently who was learning how to switch to the natural products for her hair. She was having a challenge though because even those have chemicals. Of course, the most natural choice would be for us to just not dye our hair at all, but most of us are not willing to do that. So these small insults over time can have an impact on our health. The mascara we put on, the lipstick we put on, the food, shampoo, perfume, detergent. Throughout the day, most of us are exposed to a tremendous amount of chemical exposures. And because we can't feel it, we assume that this is going to be fine. This is going to be completely okay. There's not going to be any side effects. But the truth of the matter is, there are things going on inside of our bodies in response to these exposures. And that means that for our bodies to function healthfully, these things have to be eliminated. Otherwise, they would simply build up in the body, and they're poisons, insecticides that we spray in our gardens or that we consume. And that study, the study of the effects of all of that on our health, is a branch of medicine called environmental medicine. And so it doesn't hurt to have a conversation with patients about what these environmental exposures are doing to one's health and whether or not we can't encourage them to move towards more natural products. So the good news is that a lot of natural products are cheap. White vinegar, baking soda, etc. And it definitely is something that I encourage my patients to do, is to simply do that environmental assessment. If you feel like there's an overgrowth of mold and fungus in the home, I always tell people the cheapest and simplest thing to do is to take a cotton ball, uh, put some tea tree oil in the cotton ball, put it in a glass, and leave it somewhere in the bathroom. Leave it in the uh, shower. That way, you are able to have an something that has antifungal properties, very cheap, very inexpensive, in the bathroom. People also clean with it. But recently, over the last couple days, in addition to talking to people about things that they can do to reduce their environmental exposures in the home, and I do have an assessment that we do, um, I've also talked to people about exposure to things in the media that can have a similar effect on one's health. But let's first go over the environmental assessment that I give my patients. And the first is air quality. And that is that we encourage people to make sure that they have good air quality, particularly if you're living near a freeway or if you're living in a major city where the air quality is not that great, if there's been a lot of fires in the area, if there's pesticide spraying going on, particularly in rural areas. Consider the fact that something is going on with the air quality. If you're worried about that, we encourage people to dust their home. We also encourage people to think about getting air filters. I know you can get them, keep them in your various different rooms, and they're available online. Various different online companies do sell them. Second thing we talk to people about is buying organic in season. If you're strapped for cash, buy the stuff that's in season or frozen. Yes, as I have said in previous videos, if it's not organic, if it's local and fresh and not organic, it's probably going to have the same nutritional benefits, but we're really looking here at what the environmental impact is, particularly in people who have autoimmune conditions, hormonal dysregulation, depression, anxiety, or just trouble in general with those pathways that are detoxification pathway. In the liver, we call it the P450. Doctors all know the P450 pathway, and that's basically that our liver is taking these chemicals, breaking them down, attaching it to a water molecule, flushing it from the body through the kidneys, metabolizing, getting rid of stuff. Some people don't do that as well as others, and so they wind up with a buildup of these toxins, and that is something that we definitely look at. The genetics of some people are more genetically than others. That's why doctors will do genetic testing to see if you happen to be one of those people. So that is also why we encourage people to move towards organic products to the best of their ability. There are some things that you can buy on the market. I've seen them in the produce section at Whole Foods that you can put a few drops in the water to wash off the pesticides. Other people have said that baking soda in the water works great. Other people have just said washing the vegetables really well before consuming them if you are eating a food that is sprayed with pesticides. I always tell people stay away from the dirty dozen if it's not organic, and I will go ahead and put a link to what the dirty dozen is below this video so you know what, if you're strapped for cash but you want to only buy organic when you buy the dirty dozen, that information will be below this video on my YouTube channel. The second thing we talk to people about is plastic and plastic containers. Plastic was discovered, I believe, in the 1950s when they were trying to invent a birth control pill. They were creating synthetic estrogens, and one of the byproducts from that experimentation was that they invented plastic. Yay! Plastic. So, you know, we do everything with it. We all use plastic unless we're super strict. Not all plastics are alike. Some plastics, the hard plastics, tend to be a little bit less vulnerable to putting estrogen-like substances. You really also want to look at the back of the label and see if what you're getting is a more environmentally friendly form of plastic. Just remember, the harder plastics tend to be the safer plastics. I think it's the number 2 that tends to be a little bit on the safer side, but don't quote me on that. I will link that as well below. And we always encourage people not to microwave plastic because, again, those estrogen-like compounds can then wind up in the food supply. Water bottles, if you can go with glass or metal. What I do is I have these sorts of things. This is an old pasta jar. You know, it's always good to reuse what we have. I take a pasta jar and I wash it up, scrub it, and then wow, I've got a great storage. You could drink water out of it. This stored some nuts and seeds that I take with me to the office to stave off hunger. Um, the other thing in an environmental assessment is cleaning supplies and encouraging people to use biodegradable whenever possible, avoiding fragrances, and that includes shampoos and cleaning supplies, body soaps, etc. Dr. Bronner's is a pretty clean soap. I don't work for the company, but I think they do pretty good work. And if you're in doubt, you can buy a big thing of Dr. Bronner's and use it to not only clean your bathroom, clean yourself, brush. I think people also have brushed their teeth with it, but you can also wash your clothes with Dr. Bronner's. I like the unscented, and then you can add your own scent, but they also have scented. And as I said before, the cleaning supplies, sometimes just white vinegar and baking soda works just fine when you're trying to clean something. You can put a little baking soda there, leave it alone. Bleach, I have mixed feelings about. It is used in universal precautions for various different types of bacteria in 10% water. I think that that's absolutely fine. Just don't soak your hands in it. And then, as I mentioned before, beauty products, going with the more natural companies. I will see if I can't link some of those below. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to talk about is with environmental exposure also has to do with what we watch, what we're exposed to, and that's the part that's a bit controversial in the sense that I'm as much of a junk as a news junkie as the next person. I'm definitely watching a ton of stuff on TV, but consider how these images can have an impact on your health. If you're watching certain things on the news and it's causing nightmares, or if it's causing you to be upset, then you may want to limit how much news and certain kinds of images in your daily life that are causing you to have stress or disrupted sleep or anxiety. I know people that literally will just spend 5 minutes a summary of the news, but they don't want to. But they're literally they block the news. For other people, they don't go on social media because spending too much time on social media is actually associated with depression, anxiety, etc. So I did want to include that conversation in this video about an environmental assessment. So being aware not just about chemical exposures and whatnot when we do an environmental assessment, but also being mindful of images, media, television, film, news, social media as well, and its impact on our health. It may be that you have to do an assessment. It may be that you are spending too much time on social media. I've been there. And it's having an effect on mood and your overall well-being. You know, something to think about as you go through that environmental assessment. I want to thank you for watching this video for drwhimsy.com and also for Broke Aristocrats, because I'll put it on both channels. Be sure and share, like, subscribe, and tell me what you are doing to take care of